You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. What a weekend it was. What a week it's been. I just had a very fabulous 33rd birthday bash right here in Philadelphia. And I know from all the things that you all have seen on social, it was definitely a party to not want to miss. I'm recovering from the festivities. So, if I do sound very much more, reserved in my vocal inflection, it's because I'm trying to recover my voice from what was a very spectacular weekend. It was fabulous. I don't know. I mean, it was just a great weekend. The party was at Rex at the Royal, which has been in the news. I broke a story last Friday that Chef Angie Brown is officially the executive chef there. She is over cuisine. She's the big one. She's the big dog, and she's doing some great work. Which, for those who don't know, Chef Angie Brown has been, the lead chef, black chef in Philadelphia for many years. She's been in the game for I want to say at least 40 years. She owned several restaurants. She owned one with her daughter called Soul that I believe was in Chestnut Hill many, many years ago. She owned Angie Brown, which was, named after her. She goes by Angie Brown Johnson in some circles, but she's a longtime Philly girl who's been in the scene for a while. But she's now the culinary director of Rex at the Royal, which is on South Street. And I had a very private party in their upstairs area, and it was beautiful. Grand balcony, lots of cocktails, the Portillo, which is one of my favorite cocktails in Philly, which ironically enough is made with tequila, which I'm not a fan of tequila itself. I'm a gin vodka person. That's who I am. But weirdly enough, this particular cocktail made with, I believe, mezcal, actually. So maybe tequila adjacent, but mezcal. It is one of my favorite drinks in the city. And I think it's because it feels like you're drinking something healthy. It's got the turmeric. It's got the puree of carrot. It has this lemon flavor, this gingery flavor. It feels like you're drinking this really great, healthy drink. The best way to describe it would be like an adult V8 splash, like the tropical version, but except with liquor. That's the closest I can describe it, but that doesn't even give it justice because the turmeric is very bold. But it's a very unique drink, and it's special, and it's beautiful, and it's just vibrant. And many people were getting their drink on at the party over the weekend and really enjoyed it. Chef Angie Brown, catered this entire dinner. There was oysters and lobster tail and shrimp and these delicious bites, these sliders. Oh my God, these sliders are really good. There was Caesar salad. There was jambalaya. Oh my goodness, we had jambalaya. It was incredible. And the cake. Oh my goodness, the cake. The cake was, of course, made from none other than Cake Life Bake Shop, which they've done everything for me over the years. Birthday cakes. They did my wedding cake. It was incredible. It was a very great cake. And so many of my friends came, folks from out of town, Dr. Parks, and of course, Joe from Baltimore now. They're Baltimore residents. My bestie, Jessica came through from Houston and flew down here. Abel, of course, New York. Nina, of course, New York. And just so many people. And it was a great time. I think about roughly 50 people came out. Which was awesome. The attendance, everybody, the Lip Brothers was there, of course, and Lauren and Sharon and both Kellys. Both of my Kellys came and everyone was there. It was just a very fabulous time. My outfit, oh my goodness. I loved my birthday outfit. I really did. I've been thinking about this fit. So I got this custom made, um, how do I put it? It was a two piece blazer pants, but there was a design like these lovely print flowers. That was like a semi like a larger paisley look, but it was like these rich, luscious flowers on this that was floral, custom on the. It was a silk ensemble, and I had these metallic silver shoes with my, of course, metallic nails, silver nails, and of course the new Mira metallic silver bag from Telfar, because that's the only bag I carry. And the outfit was stunning. It is one of my all time favorite pieces. Like I'm going to one of these days we'll put it somewhere in a fashion, archival space or something. It's just that outfit, the shoes, the bag, the whole thing came together, and I was snatched. I mean, I was snatched down. I mean, haircut was on point. The facial was gorgeous. Shout out to Hannah Stone for just getting my face right. I mean, I had a beautiful diamond glow facial, and the body was looking right. I mean, I've officially have, come out, just, embracing and, finally telling people about my, my glow up, for the past year. Finally was telling people like, hey, look, this body is this body. I lost 65 pounds in the past year. And came when I wanted to. I knew people were looking at me for the past couple of months. It's like, what's going on? What is it? And it's intermittent fasting. That was what it was for me. Some people are doing other things. I'm not judging folks. Everybody do what they do with their body as they choose. It's their choice, as long as they're doing it safely and healthy and all of that. But for me, it was intermittent fasting that really made the difference. And it was also not just for the sake of like, oh, I need to lose weight. It was more about just a journey of just learning my body, learning how to balance how I eat and why I eat, and all of that. It was a mental process. It was a wellness experience. It was all the things. And I'm not a dietitian. You should talk to a doctor and a dietitian and a health expert about whether or not certain things work. I'm not licensed in that area, so I can't say everyone needs to do it, and just whatever. Talk to a health professional. Different body types, different body conditions. Some people, intermittent fasting is something they can partake in. Some people, depending on their diets and the nutrition and all that, they may not be able to do it. So I'm very big on that. As a journalist, being understanding your lane and understanding your expertise matters, because there are folks out here who would just sell you up a creek and tell you do this, do that, eat this, eat that, and all that. And no liabilities. I am not a health expert. I'm not a dietitian, but I'm speaking for myself and only for myself to say that the intermittent fasting experience for me has been an interesting, fun, enlightening experience in understanding my body, how I react, how I eat, why I eat, what I eat, all of the things. It has been a journey. And I look and I feel good, which is important. The feeling matters, right? People talk about looks and all this aesthetic fat phobia. I don't prescribe to that. For me, it was how I was feeling. I have more energy, more stamina. I feel more clarity and clearness on my thinking and my time to take. I'm not as anxious. I'm not as stressed out. Like I just feel a level of lightness that has really made a difference. So, yeah, I've looked and felt good. It was just nice to see people I hadn't seen in a while. It was just so great. My good friend Charnay, she came, which I just love her to bits. She's just so sweet. My good girl, my good Judy Candace. Shout out to my girl Candace. Let me just say this about Candace. She's a loyal listener. She like sweet birthday gift, a very sweet birthday gift. I got so many birthday gifts, and people say, "Why are you surprised?" Because really, honestly, people's presence is a present to me. Like to have all those people show up for me. Look, Saturday, October 12th was a lot going on in Philly. It was all these political events, and Stevie Wonder performed. And I mean, Stevie Wonder was just, I didn't go to the show because I was enjoying my birthday, But, a lot of, Stevie Wonder was in town. There was the homecomings for Lincoln and Cheney. I mean, there was a lot of things happening. And yet to have that many people show up like enthusiastically and just filled with excitement and love and all the things, that was just, to me, the nicest gift. But of course, there are those who just love to add the cherry on top. And so there was some nice gifts from folks. So Candace got me this lovely gift card. And see, I'm a very simple guy. People like to do the most and go crazy. But then there's some people that just know me well. Gave me this lovely gift card to go to lunch at my favorite spot. Vernet Coffee Bar is where I love to get my lunch. I love lunch. Very generous amount. Okay. She was like, if you want to go or you and a friend, it's enough for you to go out and splurge and really do it all the way. Or you can, bring a friend and knock it out. I mean, it was just, thank you. Just want to tell you that. Thank you so much. That was a very sweet gift. And so many people gave me gifts. I mean, I mean, look, I keep telling people, like, people love to give me Blue Coat. I love me some Blue Coat. Got me the big ass bottle of Blue Coat, like so much Blue Coat, the Ever flower. Like, people love to give me that gin, which I love. And they pay attention to details. Vive Coquette. I love me some Veuve. Veuve, lots of Veuve bottles. And for those who know I like rosé, I only drink one type of rosé, and that's the Moet rosé. And of course, I had tons of Moet bottles of rosé. And I was like, oh my goodness. Just, I just love gifts that I can actually enjoy. It's nothing like someone giving you a gift and you're just like, okay, this is nice, but I don't really know. I can say every gift I got, I loved. I got tons of gift cards to Hand in Stone. Shout out to Dr. Parks. Tons of bottles that I will definitely, be popping. Lots of great red wine, because, I hate white wine. Lots of great red wine, like red wine that, like, you can tell there was some thought into it. So traditionally, whenever I get some really great reds, I typically will preserve it and save it for Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving catering and all that is already in the works, and I cannot wait for that. So much. Oh my goodness. I'm still thinking about the cake from Cake Life. I got the funfetti cake, but they designed it really differently. It was this beautiful artistic way they did the cake. And it's the best damn birthday cake I've had ever. Like, that cake was on point. It was a gorgeous cake, and they did a really, really great job. So yeah, just love all that. My frat brothers came through, all of them, some of my mentors. It was just a great party. I just can't speak enough about it. It was a great party. And then the next day, there was brunch. We had brunch at White Dog Cafe, which, I love me some I love a white dog. University City, that's this place where, dreams are made. Love me some White Dog. White Dog was just fabulous. The day before my birthday, Mr. Johnson and I had a lovely date, pre-birthday date. We went to Little Walters in Kensington. This is the one restaurant that the New York Times put on their list. The only Philadelphia restaurant this year that landed on the New York Times list for best new restaurants. Only 2 restaurants in Pennsylvania was on the list of the 50 best new restaurants, but one of them came from none other than Philly, and it was Little Walters in Kensington. A very nice restaurant. Now, let me be very clear about this, because I want people to know before you go to Little Walters, because it'll be a moment. So it's Polish cuisine, and the menu is in English, but there is also very much Polish language, on the menu. But the food itself is very standard. They have some pierogies. They have pierogies. They have the great sausages. They have a lot of great treats. It's full of joy. I mean, this is some of the best pierogies I've ever had in my life. And, I like pierogies. I do. But these pierogies were phenomenal. They have a pierogi that had like chicken wing meat in it. And that was great. And they have the traditional ones. And they have a dessert option that's like a chocolate pierogi or whatever. They're doing some interesting things over there, fascinating stuff. They had this really good pork dish that I had for the main course, and Mr. Johnson had a monkfish dish that was really good. Great cocktails, great wine selection. The space is very intimate and cozy. So this is very, it could get tight. They really maximize their tables. Every single table was filled. It's a very intimate space. So, it's not, it's one of those restaurants where the food is great. The ambiance of the place is very intimate and cozy. It's not Vernick Fish. The prices are reasonably priced. I mean, the main entrees, 30s, appetizers in the 10s, 15s area, cocktails roughly around 12, $13 around that range. The restaurant prices for the food was decently priced. I didn't think anything was like overly expensive, anything like that. But just great food, just the way that they prepare their food, all of that was, stellar. So I was really a big fan of Little Walters. I definitely recommend it. It is a cute date night situation. I don't know if it's the first date. I feel like it might be for a first date a little bit too, forward, but definitely like a third date, and if you're in a relationship already, you already booed up, you got a boyfriend, you got a wife, you got a whatever, and y'all been around, yeah, go immediately. This is a great date night for a couple that's already been established. If you're new, this may not be the first place you take the person out. And a lot of you all have been asking me about date night restaurants and levels and ranges. And so I have put some thought into my answers and my recommendations, because a couple of episodes a while back, I think once previous season, somebody said, "Oh my God, Ernest, like I love the restaurant choice, but I felt like that was the person I was with. They was like, it looked like they were about to make a proposal." And I was like, "Ooh, yeah, you shouldn't have not taken, your boo to, I mean, I'm going to say the place, and, if you listening, I love you. So there's no judgment, but I don't know if the first date I would have took my boo to my Lou. Okay. My Lou might have been a little too much for the first date. Okay. That's my Lou in Rittenhouse, one of the hottest restaurants in town. They took the boo on the first date to my Lou. When you start that high, you have to maintain that. Okay. I'm talking from experience. When Mr. Johnson and I were 10 years ago, when we were first dating, baby, it was Indian buffets in University City, but we was college kids. But, Indian buffets, University City. Then we went to Olive Garden, we was, we was there. Then we went to Banana Leaf, in Chinatown. And then, we went on a nice, I think, romantic date. I think we went to Del Frisco's, and that was like the first time we was like, oh, okay. And then after that was Sabraga, R.I.P. to Sabraga, the restaurant. Kevin Sabraga is still alive. But we went to Sabraga. Then we started moving on up. And then I think my birthday dinner, he took me to Vernick. And that was a night, took me to see Cabaret at the Arden. And then we went to Vernick. And then after that, the sky's the limit. It was, it was a hive and everything else. But when you first start, you don't want to start that high. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to start at my Lou. Because then after my Lou, you got to go to Laurel. You're going to have to go to, Barclay, Prime. You're going to have to keep that energy. Alpen Rose, shit. You're going to have to keep staying in that range. You can't downsize. You got to build it up. So, pace yourself. But the good news is they're still together. That couple is still together. And, they're still doing their thing. So, but they, my Lou was a strong first impression. That's a hard to get into restaurant. You already starting off that strong. And, so I always tell people a nice starting point also depends on what age you are. So you can't, look, I was like, I was like 22. I think I was 22 when Mr. Johnson and I started dating. Yeah, that could have been, that makes sense to start an Indian buffet, something cute or whatever. But okay, let's say, okay, I'm 33 now, right? So what if I say at 33, I don't necessarily think my first date should be at an Indian buffet. So for people in my age range, where do I recommend? Okay, let's try like a Steven Star restaurant that is not like super new. Like maybe you could do Budokan. Maybe you can do The Love. I think The Love is a perfect spot, like first date spots, like The Love. A Steven Star, you could do Elemento. dandelion. You could do something like that. Even Amada, I feel like Amada's okay at this point. Whiskey Village maybe. But you do want to do a little bit something a little bit more, upstanding. You gotta still be in your range. But I digress. But yeah, it was just a lovely weekend. Just lots of conversations and fellowship and connecting with people, and it was just great. Birthday weekend was a smash hit. Other things I did this week that I'm super excited about. The 25th anniversary of the National Liberty Museum Gala. Went to that. It was beautiful. Lovely event. There was like a 3-course meal. Shout to Cashman. Shout to my bestie. Love Cashman Associates. Love Nicole Cashman. She's fabulous. We were, we paired up and we went. It was fun. It was like a gathering, and her husband Nigel was there and everyone was there. It was just fabulous. The dinner. So the cool thing about this event was that even though we were celebrating democracy and free speech and liberty, and the National Liberty Museum is just phenomenal, but this gala was just great, was that it was, even though it was like a event focused on those issues, right? The former CEO or president of the ACLU, Nadine, she was there being honored with the Flame Award, and she had a fireside chat that was pretty insightful. But the dinner itself was great. So there were, it was like a 3-course meal that was prepared by some legends, okay, and legends in the world, like Greg Vernick prepared one of the courses, Nick Elmy prepared one of the courses, and then Amanda Schulman and her husband, and she's pregnant. This is the executive chef at the executive chef of Her Place Supper Club. And also her husband and her also run Malu. And they also have that other restaurant that is like a pop-up situation called Amoret, that they're doing some pop-up things at right now, I believe. I haven't been to Amoret. So sidebar. I'm not really a pop-up person. I I always feel like I don't want to get emotionally invested in a pop-up restaurant. So when people do these like pop-up spots, I'm always like, that's cute, but I'm scared to really like get involved and get too connected, because then when the food is going, it's going. I mean, that might be weird, but I don't, I'm always like a little like, okay, this is nice, but then you like it and it's like, you don't want to, you don't want to, get too invested in the restaurant, but it's a fun spot. They're doing like light fare and things like that. Like they're doing something like Italian energy. So it's a pop-up restaurant in Rittenhouse, and they're still running it, opening despite the UR shutdown, because I think there was like a collaboration there. But Amanda Schulman's husband is Alex Kemp, who is also a great chef. They're like a chef restaurant duo couple. They're so cute. Amanda Schulman and I went to the University of Pennsylvania together. We're Penn alum. She's class of 15. I'm class of 14. And definitely we remembered each other from college. We weren't in the same circles or anything, but like now here we are. Like I'm a food editor and she's like this chef that I get the chance to cover and I get to see. So her and her husband also prepared one of the courses at the restaurant. I mean, the gala. It was at the Pump House, which is co-owned by Nick Elmy, who of course is also one of the guys who did the courses, but also he used to do Royal Boucherie, but that's not his anymore. He runs Laurel and Lark, which is over there in that Bala Kenwood area. So he's doing his big one. They had also appetizers at little stations from Irwin's. Honeysuckle Provisions was in the house. They had dessert by Noon June Bakery. Oh my goodness, that cake was good. But I love cake. Like, y'all know I'm a Cake Life loyalist. But that was a good ass cake. And I got to meet the chef, the owner there, and me and her bonded. We hadn't seen each other in person, but we had always been loving each other on social media. And like I've always given love to June Bakery because they do make good cakes. And look, Cake Life is always gonna be my number one, but they definitely deserve to be recognized for the great work they're doing in their bakery. So it's always love for them. But it was a party. I mean, that was a party. That gala, that was a very fancy gala. Them tickets were not, cheap. Individual tickets were running for $500. Let me just say that. But it supports the museum. Because that's what I'm telling people. The Met Gala tickets, all that. When you supporting museums, them fundraisers are no joke, okay? They was selling sponsorships starting at $5,000, which is not a foreign concept to me. Because y'all know PABJ Gala, we doing it big. But it's a big event. So shout out to them. Other things that I want to share and talk about. So this weekend, amidst all of the birthday buzz, this week, and I am grading my students' papers for the first time. My tech in the workplace students, they submit their papers, their first big paper that I'm grading. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm grading papers. I'm reading papers. Not bad. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of myself because I really gave them lots of drilling about what I expect in a paper and really wanted to set the tone about, citations, works cited papers, all that. And they understood the assignment. The vast majority of them did a good job on their paper. I was very happy. I said, oh goodness, I'm reading these papers and no chat GPT, no AI, none of that crazy stuff. We scanned the papers, all that. I was big on the plagiarism notice. They all know the rules. I mean, I was very big and they did a good job. I was proud of my students. I said, wow, you all really showed up and showed out and really did your big one with these assignments. So I was pleased. I was very pleased with that. Other things that was going on that was definitely worthy of talking about. PABJ, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, I'm the proud president. I am running for re-election for president. I'm unopposed. So, make it to election in December. I'll be reelected for my third term. And what a journey it's been being president. It's been like, wow, I'm the people want me. They love me and I love them back. So in honor of our 50th anniversary, PABJ, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, has launched its first ever podcast. It's called Black Voices Matter. It is on all streaming platforms. So if you got Apple like you listen to my podcast on Apple. It's on Amazon. It's on Spotify for those who partake. The podcast is on those streaming platforms and you can listen to all 11 episodes. So the way that the podcast is done, I am not hosting it. I was one of the guests that have come on the show, they interview, but it's being co-hosted by two board members in my organization, Manny Smith, who's a past president, PABJ, immediate past president, and then Kamari Ellis, who is our treasurer. They are co-hosting this show and they interview various people in Philadelphia around media and community and some really great conversations about the state of Black journalism. There's this really great interview with a reporter who's now a journalism professor at Temple who did an incredible interview with them about covering the MOVE bombing and how he was there and stuff that the public didn't know. But it's 11 episodes and it's fabulous. The grand finale of the season is a live podcast recording that was done at the Radio Kismet location in University City when it was still open. And so it was a very special moment. It was a very special series. Janine Cook, Tiffany Bacon, these are some of the people that was Lynn Washington that was interviewed for this incredible podcast. And of course, myself, there's an episode that I did about the case for Black journalism and specifically Black media that is very insightful. So if you want to learn more about the journalism industry and the state of Black journalism specifically, listen to Black Voices Matter. It is on all the platforms. Like I said, you can get it on Apple. So if you like listening to my podcast, you can look it up. It'll come up. But it is definitely an incredible PABJ production. So this is part of our 50th anniversary celebration, celebrating 50 years of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. So we're tuning up. And of course, our gala is on Saturday, November 9th, right after election at the Penn Museum. So if you're interested in getting tickets, the link is in my bio on Instagram and Twitter. Get your tickets. There'll be some special guests in the house. It'll be a great time, but I cannot wait to celebrate with you all. This is just a time of celebration and good vibes. And yeah, I also wanted to talk about some great news, some really good news. My book is being featured at the Research Center at the Newmark Journalism School at CUNY. They have the Craig Newmark Journalism School, which is one of the top journalism schools in the country, well regarded. A lot of people go there to get their master's degree in journalism there. And they my book is one of the new books in their research centers around council culture and democracy and whatnot. And so for my book to be included in the research section, they bought several set of books and things to support, but they also shouted on their social media. And it's like, wow, journalism students that are researching this topic, my book is a source of research. So that was very touching and flattering. Also, I'll be moderating the Attorney General Candidates Forum on Tuesday, October 22nd. Let me be very clear, and I want to make sure this is known to you all. While there are the presidential race is big, and we'll be talking about the presidential race in this upcoming episode. And look, I've not kept my foot off of the pulse of this election because there's a lot going on, and it does need to be unpacked. It does need to be talked about. There's other races going on statewide that are just as important. The Attorney General's race in Pennsylvania is a big deal because we have to remember the predecessor of that seat went on to be the governor of Pennsylvania, and that is Josh Shapiro. Will the next person who wins the AG seat, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, will this be the stepping stone for them? Are we looking at our future governor after the Shapiro era? Like, that might be happening, whoever's this next Attorney General. This seat has been highly coveted. Before Shapiro, it was Kathleen Kane, who was that disgraced Attorney General in our state. That was a Democrat. And then Shapiro came in and definitely tightened up things over there and was popular enough to become next the governor. This candidates forum will include Eugene DePasquale. It will include others who are running for the seat. I don't think we have Dave Sunday, the Republican. I don't think he has agreed to participate in this candidates forum yet, but we are going to be a week away. So make sure that you stay tuned. This will be streaming. I have a link in the bio. So if you're interested in watching it that evening, and checking it out live, you can. I believe it might also be streaming through CBS Philadelphia. Shout out to CBS Philadelphia to be a major broadcast affiliate in Philly that's going to be running it. So it will be out there. And I have the pleasure of moderating. I think that has been, a lot of you all have been on my journey of me moderating candidate forums for big races. And to be able to have the opportunity to do this one, I'm very touched by. So I'm happy that folks are saying my name and speaking my name up in these moderating forum discussions, because some of these moderators who are doing it are just not good. No shade. I'm not talking about national folk, even though some of them are a little dry too. But a lot of these people that moderate these candidate forums, they're just either they try to be they want to make it so much about them, or they're just dry in general. My big thing has been that it's not about you. You should be thinking, anyone who wants to understand about moderating in any event, whatever the case is, your focus should be the audience. You should be thinking the most about the audience, making sure that you get information out to the audience. So if there's a speaker, there's people that's, the debate or whatever it is, your goal is to make sure that your focus is on getting as much information out these people to inform the audience. So if a person doesn't answer a question fully, it's your job to push them and nudge them to fully answer, because the goal is for the audience to be informed. That's what a moderator is supposed to do. The moderator is focused on making sure the audience is getting clarity, getting specificity to be able to understand the information and act accordingly. If the conversation is too much focused on the moderator getting into it with the elected officials, then that's a distraction to the overall work. The goal is to get up there and, ask questions and really make sure you get clarity and get the information from the candidates. Now, to be clear, you can watch these forums and these debates and still walk away feeling how you feel about each candidate with or without hearing from them. But the goal in that case is to not allow any one of them to delegitimize you as a moderator, your voice. So that is something that's very big to me. And I'm looking forward to that as well. Now I can settle this debate, because this is what I'm about to talk about right now. Because over the week, I've been going a little viral on Facebook amongst folks around this interesting cookie debate. I think Crumbl cookies are disgusting. I think they're overrated. I think they're underwhelming. I think they're too sugary for their own good. I think there's just too much razzle dazzle on a damn cookie that it's almost makes it as almost like, are you even eating a cookie? I don't even know if I should even call them a cookie at this point. There's just so much going on. I should call them like little mini soft cakes because they're just not a cookie to what I believe a cookie should taste like or be about. Cookie, in my opinion, should be a sweet jolt of flavor and texture. It should be something that's very memorable but delectable as hell. If you are spending an ample amount of time eating a cookie like you're eating a Big Mac, that just seems odd to me. Like you shouldn't be spending that much time. Or better yet, getting cookies that are just so massive or just so extra where they're just not, they're not what a cookie is. It's kind of like when I think about when people get certain types of meals and things, and it's like what you order is not what you're supposed to got, or you got something and it's more than what it should be. I just feel that way. I think sometimes people just do the most. Like, I would say, for example, certain types of sandwiches. I think I saw this hoagie that was like a chicken parmesan marinara. And so they stuffed it with these chicken cutlets, these like parmesan cutlets. They added some like heavy arugula on it. And at a certain point, I said, this is like a meal in a sandwich. Like if I really separate this apart, this is really, the buns are garlic bread. You got chicken parmesan in the middle. All this arugula is really enough to make a little mini sandwich. You're really not eating a light little lunch. You're actually eating a full-fledged dinner. Based on the portion sizes of everything. So that is a Philly thing where portion sizes can sometimes take up space and how people want to, invest or show interest in it. So yeah, I think, yeah. So I say all this to say that Crumbl is just overrated. It's just too much. It's just, I'm not a fan. And so this past Friday, October 11th, Levin, as some people call it, opened up in Rittenhouse at the 1518 Walnut Street location, which is their flagship in Philly, their first ever Philly location. And the lines were long. It was like a concert in there. People was waiting out for these cookies. They had to have these cookies. They made hundreds of cookies upon hundreds of cookies this weekend. And people was in there like no one's business. Before you all start, yes, it's better than Insomnia cookies. Way better. More value. First of all, these cookies are 6 ounces. They're meant to be shared. They're meant to be treated as a novelty item and a delicacy. Whereas Insomnia cookies, they're regular cookies, but they're made with a little bit more love and care, but they're the standard typical cookie. These Levin cookies, no. No, sir, not me. Meaning that I'm not going to play with it. That's not the place that you go to buy a bunch of cookies unless you're like buying them and giving them individually to friends. Like it's hard to eat even one of those cookies because of just how massive they are. So Mr. Johnson and I will get a cookie, we'll split it in half, and we'll devour it amongst ourselves. That's all we need for a sweet treat. I don't need to eat. I feel like gluttonous if I eat the entire cookie. I mean, that's 6 ounces of like sugary dough and things. It's like, if you've been waiting all your life to have it, sure. I mean, I did that with one of their Omel raisin cookies. I think I had it with some ice cream on the side and, was able to take my time and do it right. But that was a really good sweet treat. It was great. It was incredible. So I think it's better than Crumbl. If I was to do my rankings, Levin would be number 1, and Zombie would need to be number 2, and then number 3 would be, well, it really shouldn't be on the list, but number 3 would be Crumbl. And honestly, it wouldn't be number 3. Actually, it should be number 4, because number 3, I would say the Great American Cookie Shop, if they're still around at the malls. But I remember the good old days when they used to be all the malls. But it's a thing. People are trying to make cookies fetch in different locations and shops. Look, if you can find a niche audience to support the bakery, sure. I mean, but Levin's been around for 30 years, and so their first ever like drop into Philadelphia has definitely caused a lot of commotion, and it makes sense because of their background and everything like that. So
I'm a big fan. What I also want to add, and this is my favorite thing I want to share. My birthday gift from Mr. Johnson is probably one of the most thoughtful, kind, lovely gifts that is just so touching. So, for many of you all know, I got married 4 days after my 30th birthday at the Penn Museum. We got married at the Penn Museum, and it was a beautiful, beautiful wedding, of course. And I think the first season, the podcast was like the leading up to the wedding. Like that was the whole beginning of season 1 of Ernestly Speaking. Now we're in season 7. Look at that. But the first season of Ernestly Speaking was pretty much me talking about wedding planning. And I mean, I thought about politics, of course, and all that, but I was also talking about wedding planning and going through the wedding experience. And then, of course, the wedding had its own thing, but like, it was so beautiful. And so ever since then, our anniversary celebration has been even more romantic and thoughtful, all because of him, really. But this year, he really outdid himself. So this year, I'll be in Chicago. We'll be doing a lovely getaway outside of Philly the week before the election, and we'll be in Chicago. We have Michelin star restaurants we're going to, one of which is called 7, which is this incredible restaurant. It's so funny because 7 is like my favorite number. So all of this is just really touching. But it's this lovely restaurant, 3-star Michelin restaurant in Chicago. And it is grand. We're going to go there. We're going to do some brunch spots, lots of lovely dinner. But the big surprise of all was Usher. We have these incredible seats to see Usher perform live. Such a nice gift. I mean, as a Libra, Usher, time listen to this podcast, if you're early bird listening on Indigenous Peoples Day, because Columbus, we don't acknowledge Columbus, but Usher's birthday, Usher's birthday is October 14th, and Cardi B just had a birthday too, and Usher's turning 46. Yeah, he's turning 46. He turned 45 last year. He turned 46. So he's still doing his thing. So to be able to have the full-fledged Usher experience is just, I'm so spoiled. I'm so gracious. I mean, I have not fathomed this. I'm like, what am I going to wear? And, of course I'll figure it out. But I'm just like, oh my goodness, these restaurants. I mean, the hotel, everything about this entire trip is going to be so romantic and so fun. And I'm just happy that I'm getting a nice little excursion out of Philly to really, because election is going to be here. It's going to be a crazy week. Then, of course, the gala is that upcoming Saturday of the election. All of that is coming up. So it's going to be nice to have a nice little weekend extravaganza and have a really good just escape. So I cannot wait, but such a lovely gift. And so, yeah, overall, those are my life updates. Life has been great. Life has been good. And just in awe of just the love and just the kindness of so many people, and just people are just great people. And this weekend just has reinforced that the grass gets greener and there's always a pot of gold and a rainbow at the end of the tunnel. I think about where I was a year ago and just all the uncertainty of that time period. And now to be where I'm at today. just so grateful. Just so grateful and just happy for all the friends who stood up with me, I mean, you all know all the stuff that went down with NABJ and all all the separations and all the bans and all the things that was going on there at the time, I just didn't know, like, I know I was going to make it out of it, but I just felt like, am I going to still like trust people? I'm going to still be able to have friends. I'm still be able to be comfortable with and all of that, in spite of that betrayal. And I was. So, yeah. Blessings on blessings. I'm just grateful. Thank you. So, getting into election and getting to these hot topics, because we have some things to talk about with this election. We got some things to talk about. I have some thoughts about some of the stuff I've been hearing in these streets, and we're gonna unpack a lot here. So let's get into it. We're days away from the election. Everyone is saying that things are neck and neck. Everything's in dead heat. Trump is definitely ramping up his rallies. He's trying to make these appearances. There's been some crazy stuff going on with that. Everyone keeps saying this shit is in dead heat. Everywhere we go, 48. Who's going to get the 4% necessary to move someone over? Some people say Harris is up by 3 points. But, even though the polls are showing that popular vote can be whatever, it's about the electoral vote. So what is it looking like in certain battleground states? How's this playing out? It's just a nail biter. It's just a nail biter. And so that's what they're saying. But the good news, and I say good news because this matters, early voting is looking good for young folks across the country. Pennsylvania has seen some good numbers. We're seeing roughly 75% of the early vote turnout by young voters compared to where they were at in 2020. Now, some of y'all might say, well, if it's 75% of that rate and not the full 100, why? And is that bad? Let's be clear about this, y'all. This is good news because you got to remember, early voting during the pandemic was at an all-time high because people did not know about their voting locations. The pandemic was in full swing. Hell, I don't even think vaccinations were out yet. So a lot of people did mail-in voting. And so that was what the count was, the mail-in voting, the early voting. I did early voting. I did not vote at a polling location during the pandemic. A lot of us didn't. Most of us didn't. And so to see that early voting without a pandemic has a major increase at almost 75% of what it was in 2020, when people literally, that's all they really could do, that is saying something. And so that is a good thing, because we all know that a lot of early voting is being encouraged in predominantly Democratic cities. It's being done in large Democratic cities. So when we get these vote counts up at the top, those early voting, that's going to really give a nice bump in lead. Now, the day of election, of course, is the most popular, but to see early voting and young people specifically voting early is a good thing. I mean, there's been a lot of campaigns and conversations about making sure people can vote early. Of course, these are nonpartisan agencies, so they're not the ones, saying this, but it's looking and feeling good. It's looking and feeling good right now in that regard. Like, I'm trying to look at the actual voting trends and not get so caught in the polls, because polls are fickle. It depends on who you're talking to. I don't, but I'm looking at certain metrics that are just unshakable. So the increase in early voting is good. Now, things that I'm thinking about and conversation I'm having. So I'm in Philadelphia, and, there's been a lot of extraness, which if you've been listening to this podcast, you knew I've been calling it. That I always say that during these presidential elections, people locally be showing their ass. There's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of performativeness. A lot of people that just really oversell themselves like they're more important and hijack themselves as being all of these things. But the crazy part is that my own, do I want to go there? Yeah, I want to go there. I'm going to say this to these elected officials, and I'm going to say this to some of these community organizers. When your 15 minutes of fame are up, with this national presidential election, just make sure that you keep that same energy when it comes to when you hit people up for other things, whether it's, inviting people to come to stuff, whether it's media coverage for something. Just remember how you played it up, and you was a gatekeeper, and you didn't bring people in the room that should have been in certain spaces. In my own backyard, there was an event, for Westmore that I really wanted to go to. And, Westmore is an alpha. He's also a very brilliant guy. He's the only sitting Black governor in the U.S. right now. He's one of roughly, 3 major modern day Black governors. We got Patrick Duvall in the past. We got a couple, but the lack of diversity with governorships in this country is very telling. We never got, to see what would happen in Georgia. Stacey Abrams never got to have that victory that she deserved for various reasons. But, sexism, misogynoir is definitely one of those reasons. But it's been interesting to see certain folks, and you've all probably seen it. There's been a lot of energy on influencers. A lot of influencers are doing stuff to get out the vote. But I think a lot of people are just exhausted. I think people are exhausted. I think the general public just wants this race to be over. I just also feel like a lot of these campaign-themed events are not as effective as they could be because it's always the same people. I'm just saying, I'm looking at these videos, I'm looking at these social media posts, I'm seeing a bunch of familiar faces. The same people, the same rallies, the same celebrities, the same people. But the people in the rooms are not them. Look, we less than a month away. We're less than a month away. And it's going to be time for people to put the pettiness aside, come to the table, bring different people that you know is influential and impactful, and stop trying to stop someone's blessing. Let people, get opportunity to do the work. So we're going to see who heeds that advice. We're going to see who heeds that advice. We're going to see who actually stands on big business and who is BSing. But I've definitely seen an interesting turn of events with certain people, surrogates, campaign surrogates in this race that has been very, Yeah. Watch. I've seen some things already. I've looked at flyers. I've seen events planned. I'm just like, I'm just thinking about just so many people who should be present in this election and what's being said during this election and who's not being in the room. And to me, I think there's opportunities. There's opportunities to do better, to mean better. And I feel like every election cycle, especially with the Democrats, because I'm not, Republicans are just Republican. They get a little, they just miss the ball sometimes. And I just hope that this election, which I do think she's going to win, but I do think after this election, some real conversation to be had. For sure. So, the VP has been making a media tour. She's been on Howard Stern, The View. She's going to be doing an interview with Charlamagne the God. And while I do appreciate the vice president, Freudian slip, the vice president making appearances on some of these non-mainstream, I mean, these mainstream media outlets, but they're not like journalistic. I get it. She wants to meet different people. She wants to be relatable. She wants to be on The View, a morning show where a lot of women are listening, right? It would be nice for some Black journalists, actual journalists, to get those opportunities to interview. I'm not saying that she has not spoken to Black journalists. I'm just saying that it would be nice to see some variety, because this like, and I'm going, and this is gonna bleed into the thing. I'm gonna save that for my Ask Ernest, because I know you all want to talk about it. We are going to talk about it. I don't skirt away from anything, but we are going to talk about Obama in Ask Ernest, because that was the number one question that you all asked me this week. We're going to talk about him in that, but I want to lay the foundation here. Journalism matters, y'all. Journalism matters. And there's been all these weird conversations on the internet lately about, music journalism and all of that. And people are making some really good salient points about music journalism, which I saw the problem with it a while ago, but people didn't want to hear me out. That sadly, music journalism is beginning to struggle because a lot of people come into the industry are so obsessed with just interviewing a famous person, but they're not really taking the time to to harness their actual skills and their actual expertise to engage these artists on a level that's more meaningful than just the typical, what's your album about? How do you feel? Or whatever the feeder questions. And to be honest, in the entertainment industry, it's just harder to do good journalism, I feel like sometimes, because to some extent, it does rely on some level of access. And if you're not getting that access, then a lot of what you write about is more going to be critical and, you're doing it, you're kind of doing it by yourself, but the music journalists that people care about are those who get those interviews. But then at what point do you get those interviews that are compromised? Because I hear stories all the time. I mean, I've dealt with it in the past where there were certain PR firms and people that was like giving you questions to ask and trying to control what you say. So if you did that thing, you'll lose something else, right? So it's always this tit for tat that takes place. But in political journalism, it's getting really, it's a little disappointing, right? Because you're starting to see politicians shift away from journalists because they don't want to be asked, whatever they call tough questions, or just asking real questions. They don't want to be, so they like to be places where people are going to acquiesce to them in a becking call. Young podcasters is going to be talking about light shit, silly shit, or shit that just lets them just tell their own version without any challenge or pushback. That to me is disgraceful. And then the irony is that these are the same people, right, that will complain. But when an influencer, gets to a position where, a content creator where, the conversation is shifting, I can definitely see there being a level of frustration that a politician will have, right? Like, you can appease them all you want, and then if they don't like you, they turn on you. You got a legion of people who's going to be getting potential misinformation, disinformation based on outcome. And so there's a tricky game happening right now and in media where powerful people are trying to play, they think they're playing chess, but they're really playing checkers between whether or not they're going to engage journalists or they want to engage, I'm going to call them content creators. I don't have a nicer thing to look, if you want to be in a realm where we're discussing facts and you want straight up information, that's journalism. I'm not saying content creators cannot produce facts. I'm not saying that they cannot, provide information, but the goal is, what is the actual objective of the institution? So content producers
their investment is, or creators, is to produce content so that they can be able to, get access, make money, to entertain, to just, get engagement, right? Journalists primarily do it because the goal is to actually inform people with factual information so that, they can produce, it's a public service to help influence, with factual information, critical thinking, to inform people to make decisions for better governance, right? The end goal is to, you know, promote democracy and democratic ideals. So civic engagement, like we're giving people information so that they can know the information so they can make sure that they vote, right? Like what journalism is supposed to do is to inspire civic engagement. Like, okay, you don't like this thing, hold your elected official accountable. You are upset about, you read this article where we expose that there is lead in the paint. What are you going to do about it, people? Are you going to elect better leaders? Are you going to, boycott that facility? Are you going to whatever? It's encouraging, civic engagement, because what we do as journalists is we exercise the right of the free press, the First Amendment. And as a result of that work, we're encouraging the continuation of civic engagement, right? Whether it's through the right to assembly, the right to protest, the right to, to vote, right? All of these different things, we're encouraging that level of democracy. That is the goal of the free press. That is the role that journalism plays in doing that. All of these other outlets, right? Content creators, whatever they do, they're trying to sell you shit. They're trying to make you spend money. They're trying to make you buy stuff. They're trying to make you, they might want to instigate fights. They're representing a particular individual that they're trying to, make more money. They're doing a lot of other things that is not necessarily the same agenda of civic discourse and engagement, right? So a content creator that's putting out a lot of mass hysteria and fake news, right? False information about the election. What's their purpose? Their purpose is actually to try to discourage people from actually participating in civic engagement. They're trying to discourage people to make smart decisions because they're giving them bad information. So these are called chaos agents, right? These are people that are invested in doing harmful things to stop the growth and the progression of our society. They are creating content that's meant to distract people. Okay, so while we're talking about this issue, you're putting out all this misinformation about a person to stop us from being able to really focus on the issue at hand. So we see this happen in presidential races where there are certain folks that will pull up random misinformation and spread a lie about FEMA while people are trying to save, get out of harm's way during a deadly hurricane. Like this is like, why would they do that, right? Because the goal is to stir misinformation about the Biden administration, which is, saying that, oh, FEMA ran out of money. That's not true. But they're saying that during a time where people are in desperate stride because they really want to get folks to be riled up and upset to make a bad political decision. So there's a lot of reasons why folks on the other side might choose to do disinformation in the content creation era. And what they've done is that they've stolen and hijacked graphics and templates that are used by credible media news sources to try to fake legitimize and cosplay as if they're reporters, as if they're people with the inside scoop. So when people are saying things like, oh, journalism is irrelevant, if that's the case, why are your favorite content creators copying the style, the swagger, and the approach of what legitimate news, credible news sources look like? And also, if you notice, most of these content creators, right, utilize journalistic articles to try to spread their information. They either fake the article looks, they either copy and say or lie on credible news to get the validity. So they'll say, oh, there was this report in CNN that said blah, blah, blah. CNN never said that. Google it, it won't be true. They'll say, oh, I heard this in New York Times. New York Times never said it. But why are they referencing journalistic sources to try to defend their bullshit? Is because we, the people, as much as we will act like we don't care about the news, we don't care about this, we still, when shit gets real, rely on credible sources, right? So if you hear there's a deadly hurricane or something, you're going to the Weather Channel, you're going to CNN, you're looking at real news. You stop playing when it gets about your life. Have people noticed that when it becomes a situation of life and death, folks wake up and automatically go on certain news channels. They looking at credible news. They're not really trying to read the dumb stuff in the shade room or the crap on the social media and Instagram. They really will try to seek real assistance and government assistance. All of a sudden, folks that be like, oh, I don't give a fuck about the government, this and this. Oh, but when their house is about to be in ruin or something, oh, people did know about, the Red Cross. They know about government social services. All of a sudden, people recognize who they should be listening to and who they should be getting their information from. Right. So what we have found, and what I keep telling people, is that this is really about confirmation bias. And these various content creators and news sources are invested in confirmation bias to support their information. So they'll go on certain shows with liberal slant interviewers. They'll go on certain shows with far-right conservative voices that support their beliefs and their biases so that they can be able to control the narrative of themselves. If you're doing journalism right, no source should be able to dictate or control the out result. Now, if you have a good interview with a source or a person that just does it well, it's a good interview because that person prepared themselves. But if you hijack and manufacture the interview to try to shape it, giving the questions in advance and all this other crap, then you are in many ways being a pawn to propaganda. And so it's very important to know the difference. And it's going to go in people's ear and out. But these are the times where during this election cycle, it's been frustrating to see, even in Philadelphia, this trend of folks cherry picking who they want in the room and who they don't want in the room. Because at the end of the day, this really does hurt our democracy. It's undemocratic, to be honest. So, just some observations I'm seeing out here. And then before I move on to a book that just came out, a memoir. Well, it's been 2 interesting books that came out, actually. So I got something to say about 2 of those books. I just want people to understand, and I do want to say this because people have been bringing this up, and I've had people ask me specifically about my thoughts about elections and voting. I have had for a while a concern about the standum of electoral politics. Y'all, at this point, voting should be seen as an act of harm reduction. It should not be seen as the end-all, be-all of our civic participation. It should not be seen as a vote for your favorite person that you love in life. This is your favorite person. We have gotten so caught up in the stan culture and celebrity culture in our society that we've now put everything in that same box. Like, I get that as consumers, when you buy a CD or a ticket, you could be picky about the music artist you're supporting. But when it comes to politics and you're in democracy, you don't get to sit out and just go, oh, I don't want to vote because I don't really like this candidate, because I don't like the way she dressed. I don't like the way she talked. I'm sorry, you're not voting for your friend. You're voting for a person that's going to make your life easier. And in this election, as a Black queer man, there is one clear candidate that I know would make my life a lot harder. Will the other candidate in the conversation make my life the best it's ever been? No. But will the other candidate make it better? Absolutely not. And so when I look at this race, I'm voting for harm reduction. I'm not voting for a person that's going to be my best friend. I have to agree with 99%. I'm not voting for a lover. Like, I'm not voting on who I'm going to go on a date with. This ain't the motherfucking bachelor, bachelorette, where you got to give the ultimate rose to the person that won your heart. That's not how elections work. That's not how voting works. And so I will say this to the people in the back, that for those who are just really not feeling either candidate, you're not voting for who you are in love with. You're voting for harm reduction. If you vote for Donald Trump, your life is going to be worse than what it was before. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you can prevent your life from being 10 times worse under a Trump administration. The choice is up to you. But that's harm reduction. And so I don't think my life will be better with another Trump term. I don't think it will. I think it'll be more chaotic. I'll be on the edge of my seat, biting my nails. Just hopefully that marriage equality does not get eroded by the Supreme Court. I will be in a state of just constant fear, to be honest, because I don't know what will happen when this man gets inaugurated in January if he was to win. I wouldn't know what's going to happen next because he's made it clear that he's invested in a dictatorship. And I take him seriously for that. I know that if Kamala is elected, she's not going to do the same things Trump did. We're not going to have an insurrection. We're not going to have a Muslim ban. We're not going to have Roe v. Wade, getting gutted. We're not going to have extreme conservatives being appointed to the Supreme Court bench. We're not going to have that under a Harris administration. So for those reasons, I'm voting for her to reduce that harm. That's it. That's what I tell people. You're not voting for your best friend. You're not voting for the person that you absolutely love to death. That ain't this. This ain't American Idol. This isn't, one of these reality shows where you have to make a tough decision on who gets the rose and bring a flower. Like, this is not it. So, tell your friends that. Remind people, voting is an act of harm reduction. Voting is not an act of perfection. It's not an act of absolutism. It's not an act of, complete purity. It's not that. So please, with all due respect, let's, temper our expectations. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. Trump. Because there needs to be some things to be said about Trump. New York Times did a really fascinating story about how his crowds and the speeches have gotten longer, have gotten angrier, have had more profanity, and that the crowds are not staying as long as they used to. There is some odd vibes going on in those crowds. I really can't wait for this election to be over because I have a thought. And I don't want to say the word I'm going to jinx myself, but I mean, it is my podcast and I have the right to change my mind. I just feel like this race is not as tight as they say it is. I just don't feel that. It's either going to be a close ass race or this is going to be a fucking blowout. But I don't see this being this close. I just don't see the closeness. I feel like there is a clear, obvious person. Who that person is, I think it's Kamala. But it could be Trump. But I just feel like there is a silent, there is a very, people are moving in ways that is showing me something. First of all, Kamala has raised over $1 billion, more than any presidential campaign ever. The money keeps coming. Trump has done more rallies. He's doing more events. He is doing more. He's ramping up more recently. But he is being very insular. More insular than he's ever been. Very much only in his own safety corners. He's kind of abandoned mainstream media. Even Fox News isn't giving him the big break that he's used to. There is something going on. I can't put my finger on it, but something is going on. And I get my sense, and y'all know how I am. I tell y'all, I'm like, something's happening. And I just feel like even Trump, like I tell you all, Trump, that mental decline, It's something off. And nobody over there in that camp is like really energized. This man is invested in losing. I sense that Trump is prepared to lose. He thinks he's going to lose, and he's more invested in ramping up his legal team. He wants to fight this. He wants another insurrection. He's going to be a sore loser. And this man is playing like a loser. Kamala is very confident. It's giving she's on a victory lap, but she's also cautiously on this victory lap. But there's something about the way she's moving with a level of energy, and even the way the media is embracing her, that everyone kept thinking the honeymoon phase was going to be over. But the honeymoon phase has not really been over. She has just consistently been cruising for various reasons, you know. But there's something off over there with that Trump camp. And I feel like he's more invested in trying to prepare. There's a lot of conversation about legal, all this voter suppression shit happening. He's not invested in trying to win voters. He just seems out of it. He just seems like he doesn't give a fuck about the November 5th election. There's a part of him that's just kind of like, I think he's feeling like he's not going to win. And so he's trying to figure out how to win outside of actually winning. And it reminds me of 2020 when he was very adamant on talking very defeatist. And this is a pattern I've noticed where throughout that entire process, he kept saying, if I lose, it's stolen. It's stolen. They're going to steal. I'm like, why would you talk like that as the incumbent? Like, you are the incumbent. The advantage should be yours, right? I mean, why would you say that? Because in 2016, there wasn't this stealing election crap. I mean, it wasn't this extreme stealing. Like, I mean, this man just had the audacity to run, and he didn't care. He just had the audacity to run, and he ran his race, and he won his race, and it was what it was. So it was a lot of interesting energy that I, I could say would be interesting. I could see, I'm seeing some shifts. I'm seeing some shifts in behavior. I'm seeing some shifts in tone. There's a lot going on over there. And so I would recommend folks just observe. But some of this is based on the book. So Melania, her memoir came out. I did not buy the book. I did get privy to some excerpts and some things, and did some perusing. I did not buy the book myself, but I did be privy to seeing the book. This woman don't know what the hell she is and who she is and what she stands for. If I ever thought the book should have been called Spineless by Melania Trump, because it was spineless, no vertebrae whatsoever. Very passive, very bullshitty. I don't think she wrote this book herself. She probably did not. I mean, when has she ever written anything? She didn't write her damn speech during the RNC in 16 or 20. Was it 16? She didn't write the damn speech. Somebody else wrote it. She was testing all this stuff from Michelle Obama. And she said in reference to that in the book that it was obvious that she had pulled from a lot of inspiration or something around those words. There was a lot of pulling from other sources and places, that create confusion. I'm like, no, you stole. You didn't know what the hell you wrote. You just you didn't even write it. I mean, let's just be real, girl. Like, let's be for real. She talks about how she's always been pro-choice, but then she also talks about like Trump and his power and his influence. And I'm just like, what are you saying? It was just very circular. But the one thing I would say that's important about this book, and this is what I think people need to take away from it, is we got to stop acting like Melania Trump is somewhere, captured and trapped in this marriage she doesn't want to be in. She's very much fully on board with the bullshit her husband do. She's not leaving him because it is her meal ticket. It is the way in which she sustains her life. She likes the power. She likes the influence. She's not leaving her husband. Now, is she attracted to him? Is she feeling him romantically? Probably not. I don't sense that. But as far as her commitment to being a part of this situation ship, right? Or partnership, right? I think this woman is invested in it because it benefits her. It's very selfish. I don't think this is about democracy. Like, you all are asking this woman to be somebody that she's not. She's never been the person that you all want her to be. She's very much complicit, and a lot of you all want to act like that. Remember, that was the whole thing with JD Vance about, oh, she's a woman of color. She must not agree with this type of stuff. She married who she married. They both came together. The stuff he is saying shows us and tells us exactly how he feels about the world. So no more passes, no more freebies for women complicit in this. Now, this other book by Bob Woodward, I believe it's called War. Oh, so if you don't know who Bob Woodward is, he's legendary, okay? He's the man who was a part of the Watergate scandal. He was at the Washington Post. He's now senior editor, whatever, advising editor. He's something of that nature. He's got a nice title. He's been with them for over 50-something years. Legendary journalist, he was a part of the Nixon era of journalism. He did some very important, meaningful work. His new book made some revelations about Trump. One of them was that Trump made it clear that he gave Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, the prime minister of Russia or whatever, he gave him COVID tests. Yes, he gave Vladimir Putin COVID tests during the pandemic. While Trump was running around talking about testing doesn't matter and all this COVID, anti-COVID shit, he made it a point to be in communication with Vladimir Putin, who was a huge germaphobe and definitely was very much trying not to get COVID. He was known at one point in time where he was talking to dignitaries. He had a large, big-ass, wide table that, and these are just, you can look this up, but like Putin would be at one end of a table, a big, big, long, wide table across from another, dictator, I guess you could say, or head of state. And he would be on a mic talking so the person can hear him across the room. But he would never want to have these close interactions often because he was always afraid of getting COVID during that time. So, but Trump, his good friend, his good buddy, made sure he got, COVID tests. And it's interesting because Trump got COVID a couple of times. We remember that. And he was, taking the meds and doing the things he needed to do to stay alive. But this man during the pandemic was making a point to tell everybody else that this was all a big old hoax and big old sham and all, didn't ever take it seriously and BS'd about it. And many people died because of his reckless behavior and his response. Just take that in. Now, some people are arguing that Bob Woodward's book, his new book, is the October surprise. That this revelation should make mouths drop. This would be, this is a form of betrayal, hypocrisy. I don't think this is the October surprise. I don't think it is. This ain't it. I don't know what the October surprise is, but I don't think this is the October surprise. Nah. And for people that don't know what the October surprise is that historically, the weeks before the election in October, there is always some stunt, some ball drop that reveals and exposes the public to an elected official, a presidential candidate. Something bad happens that will expose us, and it's a surprise that can change the outcome of the election. So initially in 2016, the October surprise in 2016 initially was Trump grab her by the pussy comment. And that video leaked. Now, that didn't leak in October. That leaked in like late September. But, some people say close enough, and that this was going to be damaging enough that Trump was not going to recover. Well, with enough debate and time and misogyny, he did recover clearly. However, what we will find later on is that the big October surprise was actually James Comey's announcement about Hillary Clinton and the investigation pending.
And that was like right before the election. And people argue that October surprise was enough to draw folks into more suspicion about Hillary, and eventually, was the announcement that did play a role into the scrutiny and the media coverage of her that was not good press and could have played a role in her losing the election in 2016. So we're roughly mid-October right now. This week or next week. But October surprise, if we still do them, if it's still true, I think the October surprise is going to be something very interesting. I don't know who's going to get it. I don't know. But I don't think Bob Woodard's book is the October surprise. But what I will say, respectfully, and I said this about Bob Woodard before with his books, I just get annoyed that he sits on tea like this and decides to drop it at times like this. Like, you just know all this information that the public should know sooner. And rather than break it as a news story, oh no, you're going to put it all in a book and get to sell your book and get to sell salacious information that maybe everybody's not going to be able to consume and read. It's just kind of, it's not journalism to me. It's a book. So he's selling books. He did some stellar reporting, but journalism to me would be you getting this information and you rolling out in a very timely fashion to help inform people in a timely way. Like, for you to be knowing this and dropping it the way you are, I feel like that's why some people can get frustrated with journalists, because they will know something and you waited for this to come out in a book. So you had this information. This could have been an article the Washington Post could have broke months ago. But instead, we're finding it out like shocking revelations in this book, as if we want to read this for entertainment or something. That's just, yeah. But these are choices. So, Philly and SEPTA. So I tweeted something earlier this week that I just decided to delete. Because number one, I'm at this point, I'm 33, I'm grown, y'all. I'm not about to go back and forth with people about some stuff, especially stuff that I don't care about. Some stuff people just don't want to read. And so you just like, do I want to deal with the ongoing social media, Twitter, the ongoing dog piling and the unnecessary BS? Or do I just want to just say, y'all got it, but I made my point and I'll be back later to discuss it? That's how I feel about this SEPTA situation. So there's a lot of complaints about SEPTA. State funding, there's issues around state funding. There's issues around everything under the sun. State funding. There's conversations about safety on SEPTA. There's fair hikes in SEPTA. Like, for all my New York people, don't you start judging us, because we already know how y'all get down in New York. So we not gonna play like we do in New York. Now, my good Judy, my good girl Nina, who, by the way, vocals were incredible at my birthday. She always sings the happy birthday at my party. The vocals are always on. They're gorgeous. Now, she loves her some New York trains. And so does Abel. Abel be trying to talk up the New York trains and stuff. They do. They like it. And one of my lit brothers, Gio, he says, he likes to ride it more than SEPTA because he's afraid. Now, I don't know if I told you all this, but I haven't rode SEPTA since 2019. I haven't rode SEPTA in 5 years. And part of it was because of the pandemic. And after you take me off for something for a long time, I just start rethinking things. I'm like, is it clean? Do I want to get sick? Do I want to deal with people? Do I want to deal with, harassment? Because, I just remember years ago when I was younger and I was going to the neighborhood, on SEPTA routes and stuff back in the day. I just remember there was sometimes at night dudes would fuck with me because they would say something like, oh, your nails, or, I would wear my, neon pink outfits and stuff. I would be cute or whatever and go out. And it just never felt, sometimes it was like, it didn't feel safe. And let me be very clear. Like, I wasn't thinking like there was going to be gun violence or anything, but I just didn't want the harassment. I didn't want the threats, the slurs and shit. I just want to deal with that. I remember when it was St. Patrick's Day, and it was like the Aaron Express, when all the drunk white dudes and folks be getting into St. Patrick's gear, and then they go out there and get drunk and belligerent and curse and all that. And one of them said the N-word around me, and they wasn't saying it directly to me, but they was drunk and saying it with their people. And I'm like, Y'all just out here using the N-word like fragrantly. I don't give a fuck if you drunk. Why is that coming out your mouth? Like shit like that. And I was like the only black person that was on that cart that because they were all in green. And weird shit like that. I remember getting back, like this white girl was drunk. She pinched me because I have green on. I was like, can you keep your fucking hands to yourself? Like it'd be too much on SEPTA. I remember people would be selling you shit like the oils and want to come up to you and shake you down for money and harass. I mean, it's just too much. The trade, the dingy, dirty trade, it was a lot. It was a lot going on SEPTA. It was a lot going on. And I just wasn't here for it. So there has been a lot of talk about SEPTA, and the people who have picked up the mantle on pushing the issue around SEPTA has been the yuppies, the young, millennial type professionals that are downtown, Center City, and live in Fishtown and things. They care about the bike lanes too. And I'm gonna say some things about this because I know this is why I can't stand Twitter, because Twitter just don't have nuance. But like, the yuppies are playing their part. They real hype, they real Joe about all of this stuff. They want to sit up and they care about bike lanes. That was a number one issue. Bike lanes are somewhat getting there's some discussion around that. Now they care about SEPTA, and they're doing some tone deaf things. There was one guy who bothered this state rep who just recently lost his wife and trolled this man who ran another video on social, just being fun and trying to get some humor. I'm talking about State Representative Jordan Harris. His wife passed away from cancer a couple of weeks ago. And, my condolences to him and his family. Jordan's a good guy. And I knew his wife, Tiffany. We got to know each other over the years, and she was a really beautiful woman inside and out. And, he had just gotten married to her not too long ago. And for him to lose his wife in just the saddest ways, it's disheartening. And so he's been staying strong. He's just trying to go out. He's just trying to stay positive and really do his thing. He was on Twitter. He did a funny TikTok, adopting his staffers, young people's language. And he was, saying some of the things, describing his policy budget in Gen Zer speak, talking about stuff being on point and shade. It was just so funny. It was just so fun. And it was fun to see him laugh and smile and just try to, overcome this trauma. This is a lot of grief, right? And so this idiot on Twitter, this yuppie from Philly, gets on Twitter and, quote post, like does a quote over his tweet and goes on his rampage about, while you're doing this, SEPTA has these issues, just trying to be a bully. And it's like, dude, read the fucking room. Like, read the room. And like, yes, this SEPTA issue is a thing. But like, and it's obvious he didn't even know what was going on. But it's like, this is the shit that gets me. It's like, these so-called advocates and activists, right? You don't even know who you're addressing. You know who you're talking to. You don't read the room. You don't know the context. But you expect elected officials to know all your feelings, your grievances, and just work for you and be a slave to you in this type of fucked up way. Like, just the lack of professionalism and the white brightness entitlement is just so disgusting. And so I pretty much have noticed a pattern where the new conversation has been focused on SEPTA reform, which I understand. But I was saying is this the new thing that the yuppies are going to pick up next outside of bike lanes? Which was a very rhetorical question, but a really interesting point if people understood like that. Instead, you get a bunch of white folks and a bunch of folks that just are so one-track minded that wanted to go, this is impacting Black and brown communities. This means people, you rely on public transportation. I'm like, that's not the fucking point I made. Yes, SEPTA needs to change. There needs to be reform measures and budget changes and help to SEPTA. Absolutely. And yes, bike lanes, especially bikers, right, a lot of them are people of color. But the problem I'm bringing up is that this is a cause and an issue that is being super white-splained, super sane, washed by folks that are not the minority, the actual largely impacted group. Like, they are the minority, but they take up so much space that it will get people to want to care about it, to make it look like, oh, it's a white thing. Oh, this is a concern of white people that are so snooty in this. Well, granted, right, there might be some of that domination in the conversation, but these causes impact marginalized communities far more. And what we don't see oftentimes in these advocacy conversations is the diversity of the people being censored to share these stories and advocate. Like, I would love to see a lot of Black elders be, in many ways supported on their demands from SEPTA. I would like to see that. Rather than us being so obsessed with one celebrity mindset about this or, one particular, subset of people, right? Influencers or whatever. I would like to see actual working class people that are not center city obsessing dwellers dominate the conversation. Should they be a part of the conversation? Absolutely. But should it be dominate that way? It reminds me of safe injection sites, right? We didn't see enough Black and brown people who knew people who experienced opioid trauma take over that conversation, take the lead, because so many of it was, again, white folks that made it about them. And so there has to be a response, communication shift in the imagery of these causes and who gets to speak and who gets amplified. Because until that happens, everything else is going to be a clashing. We see this all the time. And so that's what the hell I meant when I was talking about SEPTA. Now, Jaguar Wright, which I'm happy that after this week's episode, we probably won't be talking about her for a very long time. Hopefully never again, but you never know. Now, I told y'all last week about her lies and her behavior and that this wasn't it. Well, life has come fast for her. After that Piers Morgan appearance, after that little appearance, there's been a formal legal response from Jay-Z and Beyonce. They definitely have sent out a legal cease and desist type of notice to Piers Morgan, to which was so severe that Piers did something he has hardly ever done with his show. He had to re-edit the video, took Jaguar's allegations and lies off the air. He issued a public apology, and it's safe to say that Jaguar Wright will never be making an appearance on Piers Morgan's show again, because with the platform to which she had, she said lies and she got away with them. And it was slanderous and it was borderline libel to a certain extent. But that's in written, but it was definitely slanderous. And an important message is here. And I want to answer this as a journalist because a lot of people had these thoughts. So why Piers and not Jaguar Wright? For starters, it was Pierce's platform that amplified Jaguar Wright to say the crazy things that she said. As a journalist, it's your job to be responsible to make sure that anything that's being said by anybody, especially a public official, not official, but public figure in this case, that you provide some angle, that there is some clear cut, analysis. You just can't let people say what the hell they want to say. You gotta vet it. You gotta vet the information, or let people be in the same space to refute. And if they're not going to participate in a direct argument or whatever, then you just can't amplify bullshit. And so while Piers Morgan was on that episode, said that, Beyonce and Jay-Z don't have time to defend themselves, he equalized it in a way to almost in many ways legitimize what Jaguar Wright said. And as a result, massive media outlets across the country and across the world ran off of that because of Pierce's international platform. I've been on his show. I've had the platform. Jaguar Wright don't have any money. She doesn't have any money. They're like, oh, why won't she just sue Jaguar Wright? Because the reality is it will cost them more money to try to sue her. And then someone like her will only further make it about herself and further center herself in a way that I think they were trying to avoid. But that Piers Morgan, though, that was a step too far. See, it's one thing if she wants to go on these random podcasts and do these silly little interviews and stuff like that. That's fine. But when you decide to go on Piers Morgan and you want to be on Uncensored and you want to be on there and you want to say whatever you want to say, the intentions become questioned because you're being used as a puppet to spread propaganda and disinformation. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Because Piers Morgan should have known better. He should have known better. He should have been able to go, no. He should have did his research on her. Because if you looked up any of Jaguar Wright's previous interviews, Diddy or no Diddy, the woman is off her rockers. She just, I don't see her. I don't see her. And she's not a credible, reliable source of information. You know, she's a conspiracy theorist at best. She's batshit crazy at worst. And so it's almost like, how do you give a platform to someone like that to just say whatever they want? I mean, and I guess people are like, well, you know, Donald Trump does it. Yeah, but Donald Trump is also a presidential candidate, unfortunately. That's not what we're dealing with here. So I wasn't too fond of that myself. And clearly Piers is not. Now, I'll let you all know in advance. You might be seeing me on Piers Morgan Uncensored this week. It looks like he wants to have journalists back on, incredible folks that know they shit, rather than get all caught up in this Diddy stuff where we don't know who the hell it is and they saying whatever comes to their mind. So pay attention. This is why journalism matter, because, you know, Piers could have getting sued and he would have been sued so bad that there will probably be no Piers Morgan Uncensored. I just want to thank Jay-Z and Beyonce for allowing me to continue to get a bag and allowing me to still get the work in that particular space. Because to be honest, look, you know, Piers need to engage lawyers, journalists, and experts, and don't lean into some of these coatish like folks that might be good for clicks, but you can't play with certain people a certain way. The way that you know, Piers was leaning into the drama around what Jaguar Wright was saying, that wasn't okay. And he knew better, which is why he immediately apologized, took the shit down, got it right, and moved on. Because he, you know, you can only play so much until it gets a little sticky. So that's that. Now let's get to Obama, because this week's Ask Ernest, you all were very much like, what do you think? How do you feel about Obama? What's your thoughts? What about what he said about black men and voting? It might be time. It might be time for me to say how I really feel. Now, let me say this real quick before I start. Non-black people listening to this segment, I'm not telling you to turn it off. I'm not telling you to put this podcast on pause or skip the next couple of minutes. I'm not telling you to do that. But what I'm going to tell you to do is do not talk to a black person about what you're about to listen to and hear. This is not a conversation to have with your black friends. Leave your black friends out of it. Or your black lovers, because some of y'all date black folk. Okay? Don't have this conversation with them. As a white person, you don't get to have this conversation. As a non-black person, you don't either. Because what I'm about to say, this is not an of color conversation. This is a black conversation. And so when you listen to what I'm saying, please understand. Don't use me as your reference point. Don't say, oh, I listened to Ernest's podcast and he talked about this. What do you, no. Because I'm telling you as a black person, that what I'm about to say is I'm not saying y'all are part of the problem, but you all are definitely benefiting from some of this about this voter issue that we're going to discuss. So everything I'm saying, this is a black Pan-African conversation. You can listen to it, but you're not encouraged to have this conversation any further. Don't talk to a black person about it. Black people will talk to each other, because this is a conversation that should have been had in-house. It should have been had out-house. And every community know what I'm talking about, because, you know, I can only imagine. So let me get in. I just want to put this disclaimer here, because before people go and want to be, you know, I heard on, don't do that. Don't mind your business. This is not for you to talk to your black friends about. You're going to listen to this. You're going to learn from it, and you're going to do something. And I have some instructions for you after I'm done with what I got to say about President Obama. So I just want to get that out the way. Now let me get to what Obama. I don't know what the fuck Obama is on. He's been on this for a minute, but it's dripping of respectability politics, it's dripping of performativeness, and it's dripping with anti-blackness. Obama at a rally felt like it was necessary before a large crowd of folks that were not just black, okay, but everybody, and decided that he wanted to make this point about black men voters and some of their interest for Trump. And he wanted to give a wag the finger lecture. Because Lord knows Obama loves to lecture black folks and young people and everybody about what they need to do better, even though these are the same people that was rocking for him in 08 to make sure that he can get his ass up there with his big ass ears and be able to flex like he's the greatest president we've had in a long damn time. Now, I will give him credit for that. He is one of the greatest we've had. But this man is not perfect. This man has said things for a minute that's been off. But we give him grace because he is that dude. Like the way some of y'all like to give Michael Jackson a lot of grace, even though y'all know Michael Jackson had some problems. He did some horrible things to some young people. He's dead, and I said what I said. But a lot of y'all like to give him grace because he did give y'all a lot of hits. He gave y'all lots of memories, and you know that's how y'all go to sleep at night. However y'all feel, okay? We got that in the black community. We got people that we know got some issues, but we say, you know what? For the grace of their family member, or their lover, or whomever, we're gonna give them some space. We got black people like that. We don't go in a lot on Michael Jordan. Like, Michael Jordan is one of the greatest players of all time, one of my all-time favorite athletes. But we never really talk about how Michael Jordan is not shit sometimes. Now, he done got a little bit better. But Michael Jordan has done some shit in his career where you could just look at some of the things he's saying and some of the way he moves, and be like, yo, you a little shitty, MJ. Michael Jackson. I've already discussed Michael Jackson. But Barack Obama, you know, is somebody that has done a lot of great work, but he gets away from a lot of shit because of the grace he's extended. And some of that's because we love forever First Lady Michelle Obama. And I think at this point, it's safe to say that black people like Michelle Obama more than like Obama. We respect Obama. He's always going to be somebody that we hold in high esteem. And honestly, if he ran for president again, he would win again. But man, this motherfucker, listen, there are times where the other side of him shows up. And it shows up, okay? And we just have to take a step back and go, And black people know what I mean by that other side that shows up. White people, it ain't for you. That ain't for you. But what I will say is that there are moments where when he goes on these lectures, he just starts saying that all American, all everybody this, and it's like, yo, you need to stop it. Because wagging that finger at black men and pushing that rhetoric that has been dead for a minute is gotta fucking stop. It's gotta stop. So let me go the fuck in about what he was saying. He's wagging his finger about black men need to show up to support black women. Black men need to show up to support a black woman, and that Trump ain't good, ain't doing it for them. They need to address their issues with why they not trying to vote for black women and blah, blah, blah. This big lecture. Because heaven forbid, there's this mass, enflarement of that, oh my goodness, black men are divided and they're going to show up for Trump and they're not going to support a black woman. This is the rhetoric that we're hearing a lot in media. They keep perpetuating this lie because it's a lie. And I've been talking about this, and I thought it was over. I thought this was going to be over in 2016. I thought it was going to be over in 2020. I thought it was going to be over a couple of weeks ago. But no. We still are obsessed with acting like black men are just going to really betray Kamala and they're going to completely vote, for whatever. So it's time to go in. It's time to go in with the facts, and it's time to tell people to sit down. Now, you already know I have no problem telling former President Barack Obama to sit down. One of my first ever New York Times op-ed, my debut op-ed for the New York Times in 2019, 5 years ago, actually. It'll be 5 years from November 1st. 5 years ago, that op-ed inspired the book, The Case for Council Culture. And I wrote about him in depth in that book about what he made me feel. When he was talking down on council culture, talking down on young people protesting and boycotting, getting mad at them about how they were standing up against certain folks. And I wrote about how people like him, they get drunk off of their own hubris. This man is so arrogant. He is so arrogant. Obama is so arrogant. And I mean, I get it. I get the arrogance at times. I mean, Listen, this man is smart. He's brilliant. He's one of the smartest Black men I know. But with the smartness he has, he also just won't let himself read the room. And I think that's just with age. There's a generational side of him. There's an aspect of Obama that just is so optimistic. And you got to be a certain type of person to be an American president. So in some ways, because he was the president, this is why he is so out of touch. Because in order to be the president of the United States, there has to be an obsession with being invested in war, to be invested in that type of level of self-compromise in order to thrive, right? That there's a part of you, I have no desire to be the president of the United States. I would never want to be the president of the United States because the level of self that you have to compromise to be in that seat, no matter who you are, it is just a lot. And there are people that hunger that and want that. There should be a psychology test on like why people will want to be president. But there is a certain psychological thing that you just have to, there's a desire there that wants people to do it. And everybody don't have that in them. Michelle Obama does not want to be the president. She has no interest in that. You can just tell by her freedom, like that the compromise that she would have to do to herself to do it. She doesn't want to do that. And there's a question to be had about the psychology of wanting to be a president of the United States, like the desire for that. What level, what hunger, what obsession with power you want. But somebody has to do it, right? And so in some ways, he has been in many ways, his speech, the way he talks about things, the way he views politics, it is so sometimes out of touch because of the fact that he is the president. He was the president. And so to some extent, we shouldn't really expect him to be as real because he just doesn't have it in him. And none of them do, to be honest. Like, there are people that just really want these down-to-earth politicians. But when you're at that level of power, how real can you really be? Because if he was really real, would you really want to do a job like that? I mean, think about it. But let's get into this bullshit. So let's get this out the way. Black men are not going to be the reason why Kamala Harris loses in November, if she loses, right? If that happens, she will never be they will never be the reason. Black men will never be the reason. Black male voters for over the past 40-something years have been either between 85 or higher voting for a Democratic candidate. That is the second largest loyal voting bloc for Democrats behind who? Black women. I'll say that again. More Black men, percentage-wise, votes Democrats more than any other racial group outside of Black women. Black voters are the most loyal voters in our entire demographic, are the most loyal voters to the Democratic Party than any other racial group. So with that being fucking said, why are we consistently putting Black men in this level of scrutiny? And do you think lecturing and wagging your finger about a few small few of people is the way to really engage those people to vote? Here's the thing. When you get in numbers like 90+%, in any other world, that's called an A, y'all. That's an A. That's an A. Black men are, in the past election cycles, have been 90% in support of the Democratic Party and presidential candidates. In any other world, that's called an A. That's a great job. You're doing exemplary. I don't know why the fuck there is this expectation that Black voters are a monolith. We're the closest to a monolith for voting for Democrat than any other party ever. That being said, we have to also recognize that not all Black people are going to be identical. And what that means to us is that Black voters, even though we're not a monolith, there's going to always be 5% or some group that's going to go left when we need to get them to go right. They're going to always choose blue when they're going to do red when they need to choose blue. There's always going to be an outlier. in that situation. And that's what we're experiencing here. So for me, I just don't understand why Black men are consistently being the scapegoat with these conversations. It's like you hear 2 or 3 Black men that are celebrities or somebody say they're voting for Trump, and then everybody got panic and go, Black men ain't shit. I'm tired of just the consistent onslaught of criticism towards Black men. Yes, there are some conversations that need to be had in our community about Black men in other areas. But when it comes to who we support, we don't deserve a lecture from former President Barack Obama on how we vote. We largely, overwhelmingly, exceptionally vote Democrat. And even in this election, we have done that. And so let me back this the fuck up. Because let me tell you what I don't like about what Obama did. You spent all this time criticizing the Black men, these mythical Black men, what, Pookie again? That did not support, that's not voting for Kamala for whatever reason, right? It's their right. Everybody is not going to 100% support a candidate. No one does. But you did not take the time to celebrate Black men collectively who are doing the right thing. I mean, Win with Black Men came out the next night after Win with Black Women to raise over $1 million in one night with thousands of men on a call for Kamala Harris. They either matched or like slightly beat the women's game, but they matched Black women on their call to step up and show up to support Kamala Harris right after she was endorsed by Biden. And then after us, everybody else got on calls. White men for Harris and white women and answered the call. Everybody else got information. But let's be clear, Black women set the pace and Black men followed right after them and stepped up and showed up. I thought when that happened, the conversation around Black men supporting Harris and supporting the Democratic Party was going to cease. We was making inroads. And then here this man, this Black man, that we also showed up for and help elect, turn it around and say this shit. Why? 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 So I have the answer why. I have a really strong answer why. Because here's the thing with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is lazy and passive. And so what this means is that rather than them get these white women together, rather than them go and engage the Latino community, they're playing a numbers game. And the numbers game is basically that any drop of Black male support by 1% or 2 percentage points, or whatever the case may be, they know that's going to hurt them. Because they're expecting Black people, voters, to show up even higher and larger and more. They're not even investing and realizing like, okay, you're never going to get 100% from Black men. You might lose a percentage point. You might whatever. But like, that's the mere fact that if there's ever a shift in Black voters by certain percentages, it could cost the Democrats the election. And so there is some data that shows that voters, Black male voters, under the age of 50, 1 out of 4 of them apparently are going to support Trump. And the under 50 voting demographic, that they said 1 out of 4. Again, that's 25%. But again, that's just 1 out of 4. So it is not necessarily, again, polls are shaky, but they're saying 1 out of 4. But when you look at Latino votes and white male votes, those numbers are much higher. I'm saying this to say that the Democratic Party is so hell-bent on trying to get every single Black male vote and to stay the line and stay in support of Kamala, that to keep the needs they need, rather than seriously embrace and really engage with other demographics that can pick up whatever the slight loss may be for Black male voters in this election. So what they're trying to do is this shame tactic of trying to shame Black men into voting for Harris, this small outlier group, because remember, it's not the majority at all. It's not even near close, right? But they're focused on this hyper over-indexing this smaller group to ensure that the Black male vote estimates that they have in play remain that way so they can be able to really, maintain the power, right? But here's the real problem with that. No community should be being forced to even overwork and over-index their level of support because you are too passive and too afraid to truly engage other communities and get creative to rise those numbers. If there was more Latino engagement from the Biden campaign, the Harris campaign, but even the Biden campaign before Harris, if there was more Latino engagement in that area, then you would see a very different outcome potentially. So that let's say that, like, I'll even say this, and this is not even about identities, but like I think about what happened in the 2020 election in Philly. Everybody was like all eyes on Philly, right? But Philadelphia underperformed, in the general election in 2020. They underperformed. But who overperformed was the nearby suburbs, Delco and Bucks and West, all those other surrounding counties and suburban counties around Philadelphia overperformed in showing up in support of Biden in 2020, that it made up for the lack of turnout that was seen within Philadelphia. So what I mean by that is that there's always could be a potential drop off. That happens. But the Democratic Party needs to get a little bit more creative and serious about how they plan to engage other voters outside of just perpetuating propaganda and finger wagging and blaming black male voters, because we're not the reason. We're not the reason. We're the solution, actually. And if you are actually trying to engage us, don't sit up in shame and belittle and be condescending. If anything, support and engage and encourage the people who are doing the right thing. What's interesting is I haven't seen former President Barack Obama on any of these Win with Black Men phone calls, right? I've been on a call listening. I can't give money because I'm a journalist, but I've been on the calls. I've been present. My Alpha brothers have been there. Now, they're not making endorsements. They don't represent the fraternity when they go on those calls, but they are alpha men in their own right, and they're brothers, and they're just there, right? But to be clear, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated does not make presidential endorsements. They have a 501c3. They do not endorse, they do not partake in partisan politics. That being said, individual alphas that support Harris showed up. Black Greek life individuals showed up to support her. And so if you don't acknowledge those fraternities, you don't acknowledge these star athletes and players, if you don't acknowledge folks that are supporting Harris, that are black men, as doing the work to engage her and support her, then what the fuck are you doing? And I just think that that's just what frustrates me. Because if I want to throw some real shade, look, Obama, you was somewhere, I wouldn't say dragging your feet, but you took a little time before you decided to show up and endorse her yourself. So, is the call coming from inside the house? Because it wasn't like you was the most enthusiastic about trying to, have a, Harris administration up top. The streets was talking about how it looked like you was open to an open primary situation. That's what they were saying. I'm just saying. But what I will get to with this is to say, lastly, this is not it. This is not it. Dragging and scapegoating and slaying and shaming black men and acting like black men are going to be the deciding vote in this upcoming election. We got to stop it. Encourage people who are doing what they're doing. Now, this is my assignment for non-black people as I wrap this portion up. Non-black people, do what Obama's not doing and get your people together. Call your fathers, call your parents, call your elders that are registered to vote and tell them, I need you to get right. I need you to get right. Like, stop entertaining Trump's bullshit. You need to get your mind right. You need to show up and show out for Harris, right? Tell them that. Have the conversation. Because it's obvious that the Democrats, for whatever reason, don't want to make white women feel uncomfortable. It's obvious they don't want to make the Latino community feel uncomfortable. It's almost like they want to placate to everybody else and use black people as a scapegoat. It's got to stop. We're not going to be your mules. We're not going to be the people that you're going to point fingers to and blame. We're just not here for this shit. Knock it off. And I'm dead ass about that. I'm tired. I'm really getting tired. Like, this is annoying. Like, and this is as a black journalist, right? As somebody who really follows elections and cover all this stuff, I'm really getting tired of the rhetoric. The rhetoric is just getting lazy. It's getting real lazy. So yeah, just do right, for real, because it's getting tired. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Um, those are my thoughts. Because it's getting to a point, um, where this is it's getting to it's getting played out. Um, it's getting played out. That's what I got. That's what I got. I'm getting tired of some of this rhetoric. But yeah, let's just do better, people. So to movies, I talked about the Devil Wears Prada sequel last week. That's coming soon. But there's also a Princess Diaries 3 that is coming back. Now I don't know if Julie Andrews is returning, but Anne Hathaway looks like she's gonna be in her sequel era. She's gonna be returning to the Princess Diaries 3. So we'll see how this plays out. Gary Marshall was a legend, who directed the first one. And then Shonda Rhimes came in and did the second one. So Gary Marshall did the first one, which is my favorite one. But it'd be interesting to see how Princess Diaries play out for the third installment. But look, people are aging backwards out here, they say. So we're going to see how it plays out. Now, what I want to talk about is this week, I think from now to Oscar season, I'm going to talk about what I call Oscars watch, because now we're in full Oscar season mode. A lot of movies are coming out. The Piano Lesson is coming out on November 22nd, which I'm excited about, right before Thanksgiving. That might be a Thanksgiving movie I might watch with, my good friends and family. It's going to come on Netflix, The Piano Lesson, which is Oscar bait. Friday, November 22nd. So that following week, I might watch The Piano Lesson with friends and family, depending on how I feel. But it's going to come on Netflix. I'm super excited about it. I've been hearing great things. And that's a Denzel Washington family production. Princess Diaries 3. I told you, I don't know when it's coming out, but I told you about that. But my Oscars watch this week is a movie called Blitz, which has Saoirse Ronan, and it is directed by Steve McQueen, who is an incredible director. He directed 12 Years a Slave. He is British. This is a wartime film around a mother missing a child. They said Saoirse Ronan is going to get an Oscar nomination potentially for this. They're saying she might get 2. She might get a supporting actress nomination for another film called, Blitz might be a supporting actress nomination, but then she might get a lead actress nomination for The Outrun, which I've heard good things about. But it's time for her to get Oscar nomination. She is a young actress, compared to her peers, but she's been getting nominations since she was 14 in Atonement. So it's interesting to see how she favors out. She's 30 years old. 30 years old. And she has so many Oscar nominations. She has 4 Oscar nominations at 30 years old, which is impressive. She's been nominated for Atonement. She's been nominated. That was for supporting actress. She was nominated for Brooklyn, which was a really great film. She was nominated for Little Women. She was nominated for I'm trying to think of all her films that she's had. Oh my goodness, how could I forget Lady Bird? Yes. So in order, she was nominated for Atonement, very, very young, in her teens. She was nominated for Atonement, and it was a big deal. She was one of the youngest actors to be nominated for that. She was nominated in 2015 for Brooklyn. She was nominated in 2017 for Lady Bird. She was nominated in 2019 for Little Women. So it's been 5 years. We long overdue for another Oscar nomination for Saoirse Ronan. She is 30 years old. She's Irish, and she's just an incredible actress, young actress. She's been in some good movies. Yeah, she's done some good work. But she's in this movie Blitz, and she's in another movie called The Outrun. And it's safe to say that she'll be getting an Oscar nomination, her 5th or 6th, depending on how they play it, in this upcoming Oscar season. So that's my Oscars watch for this week. Music. Glorilla's latest album has been awesome. Her new album, I believe it's called Glorious. She's doing her big one. I'm really, really feeling this album. Very great. It's got a lot of features. Meg Thee Stallion, I believe, is being featured. I think Meg Thee Stallion's on the song Sexy Red. She's got gospel artists on there. I mean, she's got a lot of stuff going on this album, but it's good. It's fun. And she also embraced a lot of female rap artists too. Like she's got a lot of female MCs in collaboration with her, which is we love to see it. Very good rap album. Definitely think that she can do a tour with this for sure. See, that's what I'm a little bit worried about, like the tour aspect. Because she's going to have to bring some appearances. There's going to have to be artists popping up on tour. Lotto needs to come out, do something like, there's going to have to be some more appearances that she's going to have to do because there's a lot of features. So that's my thing about a tour. It's like, can you do a tour like this? Doechii can. I mean, Doechii is. These ticket sales, child. These tickets she's selling, this album, the female hip hop has been good this year. Women in hip hop have been really doing a good job this year across the board, I must say. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, I want to talk about Shaboozey. There's been a lot of Grammys talk. Shaboozey now officially has the longest running number one song of the year. Okay, Tipsy, a bar song, whatever. Tipsy, that song has been on the charts for 14 weeks at this point this year. Not consecutive, but there's been some gaps. But he has been giving us a number one song, and he is doing it. This is the biggest country song in years. This is huge. And honestly, record of the year. I'm gonna be bold and say record of the year. I think he should get record of the year. He deserves it. I mean, he's got all the things working for him. He's got the country audience. He's got the hip hop audience. He's got a lot of things working for him. I really like Shaboozey. I think, he performed at the Roots Picnic. He wasn't a main stage artist, but he performed at a lot of music festivals. And this man is the hottest thing right now. And yeah, I like him. He's 29 years old. He got a lot of buzz back in 2018 with the song Start a Riot, which was included on the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack. But he's been doing his thing for a minute. He's 29, he's from Fairfax, Virginia. I like him. He's different, and he's getting some good mainstream buzz. I really do think he's got a good future ahead of him. And so it would be nice to see this guy get some serious Grammy love and some nominations. And also, let's be clear, Beyonce's impact of including him on her album, Cowboy Carter, I think also played a role and put him in the mainstream. But what an impact. I mean, if Beyonce doesn't win Record of the Year or Song of the Year or something, would it be nice to see Shaboozey win, her be at the Grammys to root him on and give him love? That would be nice to see. So let's see that. TV. Good TV that I'm loving right now. I have to talk about Abbott Elementary first and foremost. I love the new season of Abbott Elementary so far. The season premiere, this is the 4th season. It's going to be 22 episodes this season. I'm just hoping that, some other shows kind of, fall back a little bit. I know people love Hacks or whatever. Hacks is good, but, we like Gene, we love Gene, Smart. But I would like Hacks to fall back a little bit. I really feel like Abbott is doing something different this season. I don't want to tell it too much, but I just want to say that the Greg and Janine love thing is really cute. And this first episode was super hilarious. They're tackling gentrification, which I'm excited about. I love that each season is getting more and more spicy, but also more Philly. And so there is a gentrification storyline that's going to impact this season. And we're getting a taste of it. And I'm just loving it. Principal Ava Coleman, I just want this woman to get an Emmy. Give her an Emmy. Do not deprive her. She's just comedic timing. I just want her to get it. She's just great. She's one of my favorite TV characters right now. I know y'all love Shirley Ralph, and Shirley Ralph is doing her thing. She's on the front cover of Philly Mag this month. She's great too, of course. But when we're talking about comedy and a bear, I mean, my God, the bear's not even a comedy. We got to push this campaign. This campaign has to be stronger for her. We just got to step up. We just got to really not just let her just be a guaranteed seat filler. We just really got to show up for her and give her this nomination. Like, not the nomination. She got to get the win. We got to give her the win, people. Just saying. Y'all know I love Jocelyn's Cabaret Texas. I'm just not afraid. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed of liking that show. Judge your cousin, judge your dog, judge your cat. I'm not ashamed. I just want to say that. And then Love and Hip Hop. Now, I'm struggling with Love and Hip Hop a little bit. We're down to like the final 2 episodes before the season ends. I have to say that I kind of want them to hurry up because honestly, this season was so anticlimactic. I mean, I'm over the Kurt and Kurt and Rashida thing. I really don't want them to come back. I think watching the show more, either they don't come back at all, which I'll be okay with, or they get a massive reduction in appearance this season. Because I'm a little annoyed that like Yandy and Mendices did not get that much airtime this season because I feel like they got some real issues going on in their marriage. Like there's a lot of rumors. The streets are talking about Mendices. He does not seem to be happy. Is giving Todd, except Todd, I mean, clearly loves Yandy and they're together and they're doing fine now. But you know, at some point, Todd was looking a little insufferable. Like he looked like being in that marriage because of how Mama was, Joyce was acting. He seemed like he was just over being in that marriage because it was like he was damned if you do, damned if you don't. Cute little man, little bear. But like outside of Todd, like Todd seems to be happier now. It feels like because they're not on the show anymore. See, I think that reality TV was really making an impact in their marriage. I think it was impacting them. And I think it was time for them to get out off of the cameras. Now the daughter is about to do a show or something like that. She's now on this Bravo show. And I'm just, the family got to stay. Why has the family got to stay, on TV? Even like, it's like all the reality star kids from the Real Housewives show. Now their kids are on the show together. And I'm just like, why? Like Riley doesn't need to be on a show like this. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I would have liked these kids to live their lives and not be involved. People have been talking, they're in the tabloids a lot. She's like, I think at this point, Riley's like 22 at this point. So there's been a lot of speculation about her and just, what she's doing. But I just really wish that the show would not be so focused on them, I just think people need to just let the kids. I mean, they're not kids anymore, granted. They're like, I mean, most of them are adults. Like Teresa Giudice's daughter, I think they said she was interested in doing it. But I'm just kind of like, why do the, like, have y'all not seen this show? How this show has like, I don't want to say ruined their family, but like created a lot of drama. Like, Gia's like on the show and Gia is like 22, 23, Gia Giudice, who, has blossomed, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the idea. But that being said, I think that Mendices and Yandy's storyline, I would have loved to see more of them and the drama they got going on. Because it does look like Mendices is a little bit tired. I also would have liked to see, this young jock or jock now and Kendra situation that's been going on. This storyline has been spicy. Zane be on the show. I'm going to reserve a lot of my thoughts when I get to the season finale. I would like a reunion. Shout out to Bambi. And Scrappy and the drama going on the show between them. Bambi has been bringing the fire. Sierra Banks is one of my favorite castmates on the show. Carly Red, Carly, like, I don't know, Carly. Carly, you kept the drama for many years. But this season, you just seemed out of foot because it's another engagement, but then also a lot of insecurities that just seem to be just like midlife crisis. Like she just is so whiny and crying, and it's just like, it's just not fun this season. Carly just seems she's always been very codependent But this season, she just seems to be annoying. Even me, even as a viewer who's always kind of rooted for Carly. I've met Carly Red before at the BT Awards. She was a sweet lady. But this season, I just wasn't really feeling her. And I want to wait and see. But it just seemed like each episode, she's just mad. She's defensive. And she's kind of been like this for the last 2 seasons with her and Spice's falling out. You know, she just likes to reside in victimhood. And it's like, see, my thing with Carly is, if you want to be Miss Messy and be Miss I got the receipts and all this, then you also got to be accountable for when people see how you show up and get you together. Like, you can't have it both ways where you're talking about I'm a loyal friend and this, that, that, but you're also very messy too, girl. Like, you got to own that. And if you're not going to own that, then you need to also kind of stay out of mess. But without mess, it seems like she's boring. And I also feel like that's partially why her relationships are a mess. But she's engaged right now. This is like maybe the 6th or 5th. I can't keep up with her engagements since Love and Hip Hop has been out since God knows how long, 2013, I think. She's been engaged for over a decade. Multiple engagements. Each man, one of the men was a crook and went to jail. One of the men were Benzio. He not on the show no more. She thought she was going to get engaged to Life Jennings, but then he gave her a fake ring or whatever. It was just so much. This girl has been in La La Land. She had another dude propose to her last season, and I knew that wasn't going to work. And then she had Arkansas Mo, Benzino, pulled out a ring and then closed the box. I mean, she's then had so many guys that I can't. Jock and her was dating, you know. It's just been too much. Oh, and then Scrap DeLeon, remember him? Now, my good Judy Jess, my good friend Jessica, she watches the show a lot too. So at least I know there's some loyalists because I've been watching it I've been addicted for over a decade. I can't get enough of the show. But, you know, we'll see where it goes. But yeah, so this upcoming week, full of more surprises. Folks are still sending me birthday gifts. I can't wait to check my mailbox and see what I got. I'm looking forward to all the surprises, all the love, all the good feelings and vibes. Yeah, my anniversary is this week, so there'll be some in Philly anniversary weekend fun and lovely dates and things of that nature. And then, you know, in the week following, the next weeks after that, there'll be that lovely trip to Chicago. So it's a lot going on over here in Ernestville. I'm just super excited to see all this happening. It's coming together so lovely and just such a blissful time. You know, I love October. I love fall. Fall is my season for sure. But I hope all of you all are having a good fall. You know, we are in flu season, so I just want to reemphasize, people get under the weather. My students and I, you know, they get under the weather. Listen, get those flu shots, get those vaccinations, okay? No joke, okay? Get your flu shot, get your COVID vaccination, do all your stuff, get all the things you need, okay? Because, you know, even though the weather is still getting a little warm and all that, you know, the weather then slaps you with coolness. So cardigans, you know, codees, if you partake in that, those are really good, you know, lodgizins that people take to help them preemptively avoid getting a cold. Must take it when you think you get it. Like, you can't take it when you are already getting it. You get a little, your throat got a little, you know, take it then. It offsets. The moment you feel or think you are, take it then, because it helps address it and cut it down. Because once a cold progresses, it's hard to shut it down at that point. So, you know, be smart, be wise, be healthy. And as always, be well and be best.
Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.